We're going on a bit of a treasure hunt for what's called the hidden factory. That's all the untapped potential that's hiding right in plain sight on a manufacturing floor. And our map for this hunt, it's a really powerful metric called Overall Equipment Effectiveness, or OEE. Let's see how it works. So, let me start by asking you a question. Is your machine simply running, or is it actually making you money? It sounds like a simple question, right? But believe me, the gap between those two things, that's where companies either thrive or they fail. And it's the exact problem OEE was designed to solve.
So, what exactly is this OEE thing? Well, you can think of it as the absolute gold standard for measuring how productive you really are. It's not just some number on a spreadsheet, it's a diagnostic tool. It's like a crime scene investigator for your production line, showing you exactly where the money is disappearing.
All right, so let's dive into our first section, the factory's hidden problem. You can walk onto a factory floor and it looks like a beehive of activity. Machines are humming, people are busy. It all looks very productive. But all that motion, all that noise, it can actually be hiding some really deep, really costly problems. OEE helps us see right through that noise.
And this really gets to the heart of it. A machine can be chugging along all day, right? Burning through power, getting worn down. But if it's spitting out faulty parts or running at a snail's pace, is it really productive? Not really. OEE is that honest friend who gives you the critical reality check you need, separating the busy work from the valuable work.
Okay, so how do we actually find these hidden losses? Well, we've got to break down the OEE score. Let's pop open that detective's toolkit we talked about and see what's inside.
And you know what? At its core, OEE is actually surprisingly simple. It's just a formula: availability times performance times quality. That's it. But each of those three pieces tells a crucial part of your production story.
I love this analogy because it makes it so clear. Think of it like a student's grade. Availability? That's just attendance. Was the machine even there and ready to work when the bell rang? Performance is all about speed. Did you finish the test in the time you were given, or were you too slow? And quality? Well, that's your final exam score. Did you actually get the answers right and produce good, usable parts?
So what are we aiming for here? What's a good score? Well, world-class is considered to be 85%. That's the mountaintop. If you're hitting 85%, your operation is lean, mean, and incredibly competitive. It's the benchmark everyone is chasing.
But what's the reality for most places? It's usually closer to 60%. And look, that's not a disaster. It's actually pretty typical. But what it really tells you is that there's this huge opportunity, that hidden factory we mentioned, just sitting there waiting for you to find it.
Now, what if your score is down around 40%? Okay, that's when the alarm bells should be ringing. That's a serious red flag. It means something's fundamentally wrong and you're leaving a massive amount of money on the table every single day.
All right, we know how to measure the problem. Now it's time to go on the hunt. We need to find the actual culprits, the specific things that are killing your OEE score. In the OEE world, these are famously known as the 6 big losses.
And here they are, the usual suspects, all lined up under those 3 pillars. You've got your availability killers, things like the machine just breaking down or taking forever to set up for a new job. Then you've got performance killers, like running slower than you should, or all those tiny little stops that just add up over a day. And finally, quality killers. We're talking scrap, defects, all the stuff you have to throw out.
And don't underestimate these guys. Just one of them can be devastating. Get this. In one study, simple equipment failure, just the machine breaking down, was responsible for almost 67% of the machine's entire efficiency gap. That's why you have to find your #1 villain and focus on that first. Okay, so finding the problem is half the battle. But how do you actually fix it? That brings us to the really crucial part, moving from just collecting data to making an accurate diagnosis. This is where the rubber meets the road.
The process here is pretty straightforward. Step 1, you've got to get good data. You need to know your planned runtime, your actual downtime, how many parts you made, all that stuff. Then you just plug it in to calculate your availability, performance, and quality to get that final OEE score. Ultimately, the goal is to have all this monitored in real time so you can catch problems the second they happen.
So you found your biggest loss. But what's really causing it? There's an incredibly powerful technique for this, and it's so simple it's almost genius. It's called the 5 whys. You literally just ask why 5 times to drill past the symptoms and get to the true root cause.
Let's try it out.
Okay, our problem is the machine is running too slow. Why? Well, the mold isn't cooling down properly. Okay, why is that? Because the cooling channels inside are partially blocked. And why are they blocked? Because there's scale built up in them. Why is there scale? Because our water treatment program isn't working right. And the final, big question, why isn't it working? Because nobody was following the maintenance schedule. And there it is. See? We went from it's slow to a very specific, fixable problem.
So does this stuff actually work in the real world? Oh, you bet it does. Let's take a look at the path to world class and see what happens when companies get serious about OEE. These results are pretty amazing.
Check out this comeback story. There was this Toshiba machine, and it was running at a truly dismal 26% OEE. Just awful. But then they put together a plan. They targeted those 6 big losses, and look at that. They got the score all the way up to almost 79%. That's like getting 3 times the productive work out of the exact same machine. Just incredible.
Here's another great example. A company called PT Polyprima, they make helmet shells. They started out with an OEE of 62%. You know, that's that pretty average score we talked about. Not bad, but definitely has a ton of room to grow.
So they did their homework, they ran the numbers, and the data pointed to one main culprit: process defects. Basically, they were just making too many bad parts during a normal run. That one issue was responsible for 18% of their entire loss. So now they had a clear target.
And what was the big, complicated, expensive fix? It wasn't one. The data led them to a ridiculously simple solution. They adjusted the machine's barrel temperature by just 20 degrees Celsius. That's it. It's the perfect example of how a small, smart tweak can make a huge difference.
And what happened? Their OEE jumped up to 69%. Their quality score went from 79% all the way up to 88% just from that one tiny change. The lesson here is so important. You don't always need to spend a ton of money to see huge improvements. Sometimes all you need is good data and a small, precise adjustment.
So in the end, OEE isn't just another number to track on a spreadsheet. It's really a whole new way of thinking. It's a system for finding all that potential that's hiding in plain sight. It helps you see the invisible problems that are quietly draining your profitability, and it forces you to ask a really exciting question. What hidden potential could you unlock?